Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Patty G Show. We are joined by Emily Burke, the BBR Creative expert, CEO, and just all-around go-getter who's in her sophomore year of the business. We talk about a little bit of AI, how that plays a role in your business, and also just the landscape of what is marketing and what are you really trying to do with your brand. So enjoy the episode. As always, we are brought to you by our phenomenal sponsors and partners each and every week: PB&J Productions, Lakeman's Health Center, Falia Real Estate, and Cortex. Enjoy the show. Emily, why do we have you in here? Why do we have you sitting in the chair? Who are you and what do you do?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Starting with the big questions. I'm Emily Burke. I'm the CEO and co-owner of BBR Creative.
What is that?
So we are a marketing agency, creative marketing agency. We primarily focus on branding and consumer marketing for B2C clients, kind of a handful of verticals. So we have been in business almost 28 years.
Wow. Impressive.
I know. I have not been there that long, but I've been there about 13 years, I think. So 28 years, we've got about 22 people, 2 offices. So technically headquartered out of Lafayette. We have an office here in Baton Rouge. We have a couple of people in Denver, actually. We have somebody on the North Shore, and then everybody else is pretty much in Lafayette and Baton Rouge. So, yeah. That's who we are.
Why Denver?
Well, kind of randomly, 2 employees at different times. These 2 particular employees worked for us in Lafayette.
Okay.
And they moved to Denver. Separate timelines, like just completely separate life stories as to why they moved to Denver. And then on also separate timelines, they came back to work for us. So they're both boomerang employees. We've had a few of those. People leave and then they're like, oh yeah, we'd actually like to come back.
Leave the state, not
both,
or leave y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had people, people move on and want to try other things, but we've had some employees who come back. And so, yeah, these, 2 particular people, moved and, now, especially since COVID, remote work is just the way of the world.
Oh, yeah.
And we've embraced it. I mean, we really, I know a lot of people who've really pushed for mandating being back in the office. But we're just flexible. It's hybrid, is what we call it. So we have offices you can come to. We have things to come to. I mean, we definitely plan. We're intentional with being, together. And there's certain aspects of the work that we prioritize being together, or just building relationship, opportunities to be together. But yeah, otherwise, like, I don't really care where you are. You just do the work and you're accountable to each other and to our clients, and it's fine. So we don't really mandate that. And
as so long as you have folks where the clients are that need some on-site stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You're good.
And there are certain positions where we've learned that work better than others that are in market versus out of market. Because in office versus at home is one thing, but driving distance versus Denver is another. Mm-hmm. So our creative director is actually in Denver, and then one of our media buyers. And so our creative director actually does come, for certain client presentations or client things. We do have to make plans, for him to do that in person because it is important. And like I said, there are some aspects of the work. We have a big campaign and we need, kind of an all hands in person brainstorm. You can do it on Zoom. You can do it on your screens. We can make it work for sure. You can present things obviously on screens, but there are just nuances to working together, reading people, that it's just been more beneficial to be in person. So
yeah, or at least through some virtual to read folks and then show the presentations is helpful. But still, it's hard to do some things that are easily able to be done in person than they are on Zoom, right? Because then
Yes.
you've got a situation for y'all, I'm sure, where you're going through creative ideas, you're going through stuff, and then you can quickly just draw something or write something down, and then great, let's go copy it, and everybody's got it. Whereas if you're doing it on Teams, like, hey, let me email you, let me run it through this, let me run it through that, and it's just more tedious, so to speak.
I mean, it's doable, though. I will say the technology since COVID obviously has come a long way. In 2 other scenarios, personally, well, really 3, I was a remote employee. Whenever I lived in Georgia twice, I was for 2 different companies, was a remote employee. And this was like back in the day when Skype was like the primary, so I've lived that life. And I will say that now technology has come a long way in enabling people from, anywhere they are geographically can make it work through the technology. And so, yeah, we embrace it.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 2 people that work remote for me, one in Texas and one in Michigan. So like, it's definitely something that you have to, as a business, figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. And for us, I mean, it's allowed for the opportunity to work with clients, anywhere, that aren't just driving distance, and access to talent, anywhere, and not just driving distance. So, it goes both ways. Of course, people also want to move or want to work for companies outside, but that's okay. It's just the way of the world. So we've just embraced it.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's really just a soft office in a different city.
Yep.
And you've got these companies that have multiple locations.
Yeah.
Should we just reclassify it till we have multiple locations? Where one employee is working from their house or something? I mean, it's the same concept. You've got the same company, but it's just in a different state.
Right.
And they're not tied down to only servicing clients in Denver or within those cities.
Yeah.
So it's helpful.
Yeah.
But to your point, it also opens up the talent pool a little bit more.
It does.
While we'd love to have folks only here in Louisiana, whether it be Lafayette or Baton Rouge or the surrounding areas, we know the unfortunate reality at this time is that it's tough to find folks.
Well, it also exposes our local team to other people and new experiences. So it's a growth opportunity for them too.
Or exposes those that are not local to what our culture is here.
Absolutely.
And they get to get a little taste of what Louisiana flair is,
Yeah, for sure.
So how did you get involved with them from the beginning? Whenever you kind of came into the picture, what was the landscape like? What was your role stepping into this?
So whenever I came to work for BBR, at the time, Kevin, who my husband and I were living in Georgia, and we had a 2-year-old daughter at the time. And actually, at that point in my career, I had my own little solo entrepreneurial business at the time. I had been doing agencies up until then. I'd worked for another agency for several years, actually based out of Nashville, but I was in the Atlanta office for a few years. And once I had my daughter, just needed something a little different for my lifestyle. And so I went out on my own. That was a good time. Luckily, I didn't have to make a lot of money at the time. So it was an opportunity to learn, new skills, try new things, while honing, the things that I knew I was good at, working with clients, marketing strategy, that sort of thing, planning. I do a lot of planning. And so with Kevin's career, we were just at a point, and mine as well. We're like, okay, we know what we want to do next for our careers, but we're ready to go back home. We're ready to move back to Louisiana. Like I said, our daughter was 2 at the time. The grandparents were like, it's time to come home.
You get the help, right?
Sure.
You get the date nights. How about that?
Yeah. It just needed to be drivable. Honestly, if Georgia was where Mississippi is proximity wise, I probably would have stayed. But it was just too far. I mean, it's like an 8-hour drive. It's just too far from family. We miss Louisiana. We miss the culture. We miss the people. And so we're like, it's time to go home. We were out there about 6 years, maybe. And so when I started looking I knew I wanted to go back to agency life. Looked at a couple of different agencies, just like what jobs are available. I was familiar with the agency landscape here, so had a leg up on that. interviewed with a few different ones and just felt like BBR was the right place for me as a company, but then also like as the position as the time. So I came in as the account service director as my role. So I was over the accounts team, and then I was in charge of a handful of larger accounts for the agency.
Okay.
And so I did that for several years. I was in Lafayette for 2 of those years. And then around that time, 2 or 3, what is time? I don't know. It gets away from me. Something like that. But around that time, we had gotten a really big state account based here in Baton Rouge. BBR did. And I wasn't leading that account, but we needed to have a local team here in Baton Rouge.
Right.
And so the partners at the time decided like, okay, we need a Baton Rouge office. And then personally, we also needed to move back to Baton Rouge because Kevin had gone back to work for LSU. He was commuting. I-10 was a nightmare. And he was like, we have to move. And so it was kind of a perfect storm where personally and professionally, we needed to move back to Baton Rouge. And we really wanted to come back anyway. I mean, like, mentioned earlier, this felt like the most home to us in Louisiana. Kevin is from Metairie. I'm from a small town, Vidalia, Louisiana, which is about an hour and a half.
Absolutely.
About an hour and a half from here. And so Baton Rouge was kind of in the middle of both of our families. This is where we started our careers, started our marriage and our family together. And so we were like, yes, Baton Rouge is where we need to be. And so I started the Baton Rouge office here for BBR. Kind of remained in that senior leadership role on the account side of things. So at that time, we had 3 partners. So BBR actually stands for blonde, brunette, and redhead. So it was 3 women who started the company originally. It's very, from the beginning, female owned, driven. These 3 women were designers by trade. They left their agency jobs, kind of the grind of those agency jobs, and was, the philosophy was like, there has to be a better way to have an agency and produce great work, but not kill ourselves in the process. They wanted to have lives, they wanted to have families, and really have that work-life balance. And so that's kind of the backstory of BBR in the name. But those 3 founders at the time, started their own succession planning, started thinking about, what's next for themselves. And so they selected myself and Lauren Bourgeois, who's our COO and the other co-owner now, to kind of approach us and say, is this something you guys might be interested in continuing on this legacy of BBR? And so it was a long process, I would say, of soul searching and just kind of learning the ins and outs of the business. I mean, everything related to not just, our day-to-day jobs. We had those down pat, but just, running the business.
It's a totally different ball game.
It's a totally different ball game. And so we, over time, kind of moved into these roles. And then last year, signed on the dotted line, 2024, we bought out, Lauren and I bought out the last partner. So the 2 others kind of over time had retired and moved on. Probably between 2018 to 2020, the other 2 partners had left. And so Cherie Abear, who's the brunette, she was last partner standing, and we bought the business from her. And so she's still, she's moved into like a founder role now. So she's definitely still a part of the business, just more from a behind the scenes perspective. She's certainly been a phenomenal support to us. I mean, can always call her and, pick her brain. But she has done just an amazing job of setting us up for success and helping to, the couple of years leading up to the big switch, just making sure that we felt comfortable and ready for the jobs. And she's really just, handed over the reins. So it's been an amazing journey. Still on it. I mean, I tell everybody this is sophomore year, of owning this business and owning the business and being the CEO. it's definitely a different shift from what my day-to-day was before.
Right.
But Lauren Bourgeois, who's my partner and COO, she's an amazing partner. Definitely feel like she and I both are in our right roles, and just the divide and conquer of what we each do to support the business. It's just worked. I don't know. Our personalities, fit well together. So it's I know I'm probably sounding like I'm romanticizing all of this, but because it is hard, and there are days where I'm like, oh God.
But that's in anything. Though.
But that's in anything, right?
Yeah,
that's life.
There's hard days as a parent.
That's right. Absolutely. And I certainly, when I started this job with BBR, never thought in a million years that I would own it. And it's funny because when Kevin and I first graduated, we both have mass comm degrees in advertising from LSU, and that's how we met. And he was like, we should start an ad agency. And I'm like, no, we should not. That's a terrible idea. No, I probably even said those words. You know how you always eat the words, the ones that you're like adamant about. I'm never going to own an ad agency. And now here I am.
Well,
decades later.
But
it happened over time. It was organic and it made
sense. It was organic. Yeah. But, I mean, not to beat down Kevin, but to beat down Kevin.
Yeah.
Like, was it you never saw yourself owning an ad agency with him?
Well, maybe that was some of that too. No.
I think there was a little bit of balance in there. Look, my wife and I, she's a civil engineer and I'm a CPA by trade and whatnot. And so she would never want to own an engineering firm where I was like the CFO or anything. She'd be like, no.
To be fair, we do own a business together. It's our household. And our
you already
family,
are in business together, quote unquote business together.
That's my whole thing is like, look, we're already owning a business together. Mm-hmm. Let's the professional side of things. Although our professional lives do overlap a lot. He is really great at what he does. Mm-hmm. I can't do what he does and vice versa. So we actually do complement each other even professionally, but no, couldn't work. I envy those. I don't know about envy. I admire those people.
There it is.
Who work with their spouses and seemingly make it work like day in and day out on everything. Right. Because like then how do you go home and turn that off? So, I just don't, or vice versa. How do you not bring all your nonsense of home to work? Like it just seems dicey.
So when I grew up in a family business household.
Okay.
Where my dad was third generation.
That's awesome.
And my mom was a retired CPA. And so it took forever for her to actually be able to help with the books for my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And once she was then she was able to help and do whatever she could, but it never turns off. Even to this day, now where they're on Gen 4 with my brothers now running
That's awesome.
two of the business, helping my dad run two of the businesses where you're always it's always business talk.
Yeah.
You can't turn it off.
I will say, because Kevin and I work in the same industry, we do talk about work a lot.
Well, at least bouncing ideas, right? Like
it's
maybe
constant.
Not on specific projects. Yeah. Like, what's this idea about that? But it's generally like, let's talk through some generic stuff.
I mean, we definitely ask each other's advice. Mm-hmm. His mom always rolls her eyes whenever we're at her house and we watch just TV together because we analyze the commercials. Like, who do you think the audience is for that? Like, what do you think they were trying to do with that? And she's like, oh my gosh. And of course, you watch any sporting event with him. He doesn't watch the game.
I've heard he doesn't watch the game at all.
He watches everything else around. Yes. The sponsors, the activation, like everything. It's really comical. And now our kids even do it.
So I found myself falling into that.
Yeah.
Where if I'm watching whatever the show is that I'm watching, whether it's a show or
product
production,
placement.
I'm looking for product placement. I'm looking for what's this commercial? What's that commercial? What's that person wearing?
That's right.
My wife has now gotten into golf lately.
Okay.
Because our son really, really loves golf and always has, because that's what he and I would do every Saturday morning, Sunday morning, waking up. I would have the morning shift. So it'd be 5 or 6 a.m. We were picking up the European circuit of golf. And so we were watching the EU tour, whatever it was. And so we just always grown up watching golf together. Now he got his own clubs and everything. But my wife has now started turning into golf because there's a favorite golfer of hers Scotty Scheffler, but she really doesn't love Scotty Scheffler. She loves his wife.
Ah, yes.
And so now they have
the whole package.
So
his brand,
his whole brand,
yes.
right? And so like this most recent tournament he was at, he won, and like his son had a blowout. But sure enough, on live TV, like his wife, like he always takes his son now, like was with him, and it's really great to see.
Yes.
And like as a dad, you're like, yep, that's like, dad goals, like be playing a golf tournament and then like be like, oh, the wife's there with the kid.
Yeah, of course.
But so sure enough, like at the end, she was sitting there. She goes, oh, that's such and such brand that the baby's wearing.
That's right.
And I was like, what are you talking? How do you? She's like, I just know.
I know.
Like I know that whenever they started,
she follows them as a brand.
Oh, correct.
Yeah, they're family.
She was like, when I saw them start out, she was wearing, XYZ brand, but now I can see what she's wearing. Now I see what she's wearing now since he's won several tournaments and is number one in the world.
Yeah.
And so, but it was a funny moment because she was like, well, she couldn't change him with the blowout because he had to be in that outfit, I'm sure. But sure enough, his wife's like, hey, so he had a blowout, and so there's poop up the back, and he's just like, it happens. And it's like, now there's so many memes of like, you just won $4 million, and your wife still hands you a poopy baby.
That's right. That's life.
And I'm like, that's great.
I love that.
That type of product placement is like, I'm always looking for how is that working? What are they doing? What are the deals that they've struck? And why does that make sense for this particular category or sport or show? Like how all that works is fascinating.
Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out. Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you.
Right. And branding, is fun in that way because you can apply it. Especially now with athletes and the whole NIL but any type of like personal brand, right? I just think it's interesting, and not for the sake of like, to me, the purest form of branding is really tapping into what makes that person or that company unique. Mm-hmm. And then connecting to their like true core audience. Like that's really the magic of branding. And so, yeah, it's fun to kind of see that play out in different stages in sports, of course, is a great place to kind of see that. It's fun. But like our kids even do it too. Like they kind of play the game too, because they're so used to us talking about it.
Right.
They notice the corporate sponsors. They notice the logos. Kevin's also like such a corporate brand fan. Mm-hmm. Like if you're spending money with him, he is great. He's laughing. Jay's laughing.
Yeah, Jay's laughing
because we have
an Avita bucket back here from Jay. From Kevin.
Yes, because he wants to reciprocate that love, mm-hmm. and so he'll scrutinize like, okay, well, what rice are you buying? I'm like, well, of course I'm buying Cajun country rice because they're a client. And he's like, yeah, like, of course we use Slap Your Mama because they're a client, like, but our kids even know. They'll ask like, well, why do we have this? And I'm like, oh, you're not, you know what? You're right. Sometimes it's a good prospecting tool too.
Yeah, it's like, why do we spend our money here? Well, because they spend money with us.
That's right. Exactly.
It's the world is so circular.
Exactly. We want to support them.
Yeah. And you kind of, then the decision is almost made for you when you're shopping around for different products or options.
That's the beauty of branding and loyalty.
Right.
Okay. I wanted to go back. You talked about generations in your family of business owners. Yes. Okay. Well, I don't really have a long-standing, generations of business owners in my family. However, my grandmother.
Okay.
While my parents were not entrepreneurs, I do feel like, and even though I said early on, like I'll never, it is in my blood because my grandmother, now my grandmother is, I think she's 92, 93, something like that. Okay. So she, back in like the early 70s, decided as a bookkeeper. She was a bookkeeper.
Love it.
Yes, right?
Shout out
entrepreneurs should start.
Love it.
So she's like good with numbers, understood business, understood the money side of it. And married, had a family. This is like rural Louisiana again in Vidalia in the early 70s. But she was like, I'm tired of like, I can run a business better than these men. Like, honestly, was her whole thought process was like, I feel like I can do this better. And so she sought out looking for a business to buy. It wasn't like,
she was going the acquisition train.
Yes, she was.
Okay.
And she, as the story goes, I'm probably not going to get all the details right. My mom's going to call me later, but she, got the paper out and was like, there has to be a business that makes sense for me to buy, that I can make it work.
Wait,
it's crazy.
Hang on.
I know.
So forgive me for showing, I guess ignorance. In the 70s, they would post businesses for sale in the classifieds.
Locally, yes. Are you kidding me? Yes. And the local newspaper. How else would they get that out? I mean, this was the advertising method.
They
probably still do it to this day in Vidalia. To be honest. I mean, there's not a lot of local media. You laughed. Yes. You laughed.
Church bulletin, a local newspaper. Absolutely.
Yes, they had to use their resources, and there are a few of them there. So, yes.
I guess I never thought, growing up, we would always look for things.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of word of mouth, too.
Well, yeah.
Obviously,
there's
in a small town.
But in the 70s, there's no using... Well, I guess you could also use a business broker. Was that a thing back in the 70s? Not in...
No, and not for somebody who doesn't know that landscape. And she doesn't. Right. She's never been in business. I mean, never. She's like, I know I can. I mean, just basics. I know I can do this better.
Okay.
I gotta find. Yeah. So, long story short, she buys a flower shop. She buys a local flower shop.
That's a tough business.
I know, and she didn't know anything about flowers. But she taught her.
Nothing.
She. I don't know if she retained a couple of people but she got people on staff that she needed, learned how to arrange flowers, part of it.
Right, because there's a whole licensure that goes along with being a florist.
Yeah, yes. She figured all that out and had that shop for decades in our little small town. Yeah.
What?
Yes. And so actually my grandfather as well, her husband, had the local barber shop for decades. So they were classic, first gen small town, small business entrepreneurs. The first time I ever took Kevin through Vidalia, I was like, it's a one street shot. Yeah. I mean, is
there even a stoplight?
There's 4.
Or a stop sign.
Yeah, there's lights.
Okay, there's lights. Okay.
There's
obviously there was a barbershop and a floral shop.
Yes, our claim, but there was not back in those days. The first time I took Kevin, I mean, this was 25 years ago. There was no Walmart. And there's a hospital in Faraday and Natchez, but there's not even a hospital in Vidalia. I don't think it's technically Vidalia. Anyway, there's
Vidalia
not much.
Is the town you get the speeding tickets in.
Correct.
It's isn't
you
it
come off the bridge?
Yeah, I've
that's
driven.
it.
I've
it's
driven
a speed
through
trap.
it. I've driven through it many a times, and I know to go down to 35.
Now, what we do have
30,
are 3 drive-through liquor stores. 3 priorities.
What else are you supposed
to do? To do there? So anyway, we're driving through, and I was like, and there's my grandmother's flower shop. Oh, and there's my grandfather's barber shop. And he was like, do y'all own this town?
You got a monopoly on the town?
I know, that's it. That's really it. She's my entrepreneurial blood. She did it. I mean, again, early 70s when women in a rural town, that was unheard of. So she was a trailblazer.
I know. You're just living her life now.
I know.
You and your husband are both business owners in a much bigger town.
Yeah.
But still small town feel,
Yes. Different time, different scenario, but for sure. So every once in a while I'll, ask her for advice, and she's happy to give it. So she's awesome.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So she just blazed the trail.
Yeah, she did.
She
was like, I can figure this out.
So is your grandfather still around?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need to have them on. We need to do we need to have the grandparents on.
That would be awesome.
Talk about business back.
Yes.
Back in the day in Vidalia, Louisiana. This is
through newspaper ads.
Through newspaper ads, absolutely. I want to figure out and find an ad. Does she still have the original ad?
No, I doubt it.
Okay,
I doubt it. But that would be cool.
Okay.
I'll figure out what memorabilia
figure
we
out whatever
can dig
memorabilia.
up.
Like,
Yeah.
I would love to get them in here.
Yes.
To get that story.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine all the stories, but yeah, so that's kind of
so it's in your blood a little bit. But so your parents no entrepreneurial background, no entrepreneurial upbringing, no nothing.
No. My dad literally worked for the Postal Service from graduation to retirement, like 40 years with the Postal Service. Yeah.
I tell you what, that is an incredible job.
Yeah.
And there's some really cool people doing it that their memory of routes and interactions with people blows me away.
Yes.
Because we've had the same postal worker that comes on our street since we've been there.
Yeah.
And they remember, it's like they'll stop us every time they see us on the street playing with the kids. They're like, I remember when you were pregnant for that one, and now seeing her walk around and talk, and like seeing this big one ride his bike. She's like, I just love seeing the little families blossom on the street. I'm like, I don't know what a route looks like for a postal worker. If I doubt it's just one street.
No.
But like to retain that type of information.
Well, and that's great that it's been the same person for a period of time, because that's not even common anymore. There's a lot more turnover, and again, different time, and So yeah, he did that for 40 years. And then my mom, so she was originally a school teacher. She worked for the technical college system, so adult school teaching,
right?
Business degree, business school. And then so she actually went back to school and got her master's. We were little, so she would drive. So this is before you got degrees online. She would drive to Baton Rouge like 2 or 3 times a week, however.
From Vidalia?
Yes.
Wow. 2
or 3 times a week. And we were little, and I did that for like 2 years or however long it took her to get her master's degree. So she worked her way up in the school system and for the district for technical colleges and retired from there. So yeah, they worked actually for the state and the federal government. They went in a completely different route. Didn't do.
They were going as secure.
And maybe that's why, maybe I certainly can imagine my grandmother telling them like, no, you have to do something else. This is hard. You need it. And honestly, whenever I told my mom that I was going to get a degree in mass comm, which I literally picked originally, sad to say, because it didn't have a lot of math. We literally had catalogs back there, and I was like, what requires the least amount of math? This looks interesting. So when I told her that I was going to get a mass comm degree, and she said, okay, that's not a real thing. In advertising, so she made me get a business minor because that was real. Yeah. Okay. So I have a business minor.
So you have a mass comm degree.
Yeah, with a business minor. Yeah. So I had to take, in the end, still had to take 2 accountings and finance and all this. I actually enjoyed accounting, actually.
Yeah, see, I have a paired degree in accounting and entrepreneurship with a minor in communication.
Okay.
I wasted no electives.
Yeah, good for you.
I was like, don't give me anything that's generic. Yes. I'm like, I need purpose with all this stuff. So, but yeah, the communication courses there's no math.
It was great. And then my mom made me get a business minor and I had to do math.
But the 2 first accountings,
I enjoyed accounting.
You need to know those.
No, those actually have been beneficial for sure. I did not enjoy economics. I did not enjoy finance, but I did enjoy accounting. I liked how things balanced in the end. It's so satisfying.
It's so wonderful. We were interviewing an intern, and they asked myself, my business partner, what's like one of your favorite things about the job? And I was like, well, you hit me in a moment in time where we're going through tax season and some things are not clean and messy. I was like, so when I get a good, clean set of financials and I get a good balance sheet that balances, I'm just like so that's where you hit me right now.
That's right. Satisfaction.
Yeah, but it's and if it doesn't balance, something's wrong.
No.
And then you got to.
And then I'm out. I'm like, that's why I couldn't do that job.
Oh no! See, then I like if I get in that situation, I'm like, we're digging deep, and I'm going as deep as I can go to figure out where we're off by a penny.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not doing this plug and.
I love problem solving in general. but
It's
I don't
not
love
accounting
math.
problems.
I don't love math problem solving. But I do love a good, like, give me a challenge and a whiteboard and I'll figure out something. But math is too specific.
Well, because there's a correct answer.
Right.
Like
yeah.
there's a specific desired outcome that you have to find.
Yeah.
Whereas in marketing or advertising.
Marketing strategy is a little different. Yeah.
Right,
there are some right or wrongs. Well, don't get me wrong. Yeah. There are some wrong ways to do it.
Some brands have experienced that. Especially lately, some brands have experienced that. And I've had to kind of backpedal a little bit. But no, there's less right or wrongs.
For sure. Yeah.
There's left and right turns.
That's right. And there's trial and error and, evolving answers, And yeah, for sure.
The landscape also changes constantly.
Oh, it's constant. Like. It is constant.
Like how do you keep up with that?
I mean, luckily we have an amazing team. We have a core team of subject matter experts who are really responsible for keeping up with, the evolution in their lane. And, I do not envy, especially our media team and our digital team. I mean, it's just constant. It down to like day-to-day changes. We're running ads on a social platform. They worked fine yesterday. Why are they all wrong today? Like, why is the platform rejecting them? Or why are they not performing the way that, it's because they did a platform update and now we have to like figure that out and go tweak it. And I mean, it's very hands-on. It's very, literally sometimes day to day.
Welcome to the brand new Falaya mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falaya mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falaya in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falaya, it's real estate reimagined.
Of course, now AI is all the rage. I mean, with everybody's industry.
It's phenomenal.
Everybody's industry. But, marketing's no exception. For us, I feel like if nothing else, it's another efficiency tool, there's a right and wrong way to use it and do it. It's not a magic wand. It's if it's replacing everything, then you're doing it wrong. It's a way
you're relying on it too much.
That's right. And you're gonna get some bad stuff in the end as your output and you're not gonna be happy with it. But but it's tools, and now that AI is being baked into so many different tools, you have to use it at this point. You have to embrace it. Yeah. Which is fine. It's fine though. You can get to things quicker. In some instances, it can make you smarter, faster. It can tweak things fast. And it's more like an efficiency tool, I find, in a lot of different instances and how we're using it. So, yeah, that's kind of like everybody wants to talk about AI right now.
Well, it's how can we implement AI to the thought is, or the scare is like it can replace jobs.
Right. No.
I've actually had this conversation in my main profession of like, what do you see the landscape looking like in 5 or 10 years? Do you see AI having a role in it? And I do.
Yeah.
It definitely serves a purpose and a place, but there's still some stuff that you cannot replace with AI at this time.
Right.
And one of that is a kind of check system. So when you become too reliant on it and too dependent on whatever it tells you, then oftentimes in it, they tell you it can make mistakes. It's not, imperfect.
Exactly. Right.
And so sure enough, the other day I was using it and I was like, oh, well, that number is not up to date.
Right.
Like, because every year
You definitely have to check the sources it's pulling from.
Oh yeah, and I've got mine. Like we use it in our industry, and I've got mine kind of starting to train it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I've also got it to where I'm like, no, okay, great, that's a great piece of information. Send me the link.
Right.
Where'd you find it?
That's right.
Where'd you pull the
Show
info?
me.
Show me. Send me some links.
Show me the proof.
Yeah, show me your work.
Yeah.
And so it does, and it does well to facilitate that interaction between. Here is a stack of just documents, whether it be statutes or legal verbiage. I'll read through it and say, oh, here's where I pulled it from, and highlight the little sections of it. And so it can be useful, but totally replacing industries or even jobs.
Yeah.
I think it depends.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are going to be some very technical specific jobs within the landscape of marketing. Like, sure, those might get replaced as tools become more readily available for in-house teams to use. You know, there may be some things that are taken more in-house from a production standpoint, but when it comes to like strategy and the thinking and the ideation and unique ways to communicate a message, identifying the best message, like really trying to understand your audience in an empathetic way, and then crafting a message that's unique around that. Like, you can't really replace that. No. Like I said, the tools can help you, transcribe the interview notes into a nice recap in a quicker way, can make the process more efficient. But the true magic of what's really making that work special to begin with, it's not going to replace that.
Right, because how many times have people used it to draft an email or a presentation and then follow up the prompt with, make it sound more human?
That's right.
Make it sound more human.
That's right.
Make it sound more human.
Right.
And you just can't replace the human interaction. You can't replace the emotional and the empathetic level that you can get to with people, where they can describe to you the problem, their situation, or their business and their idea. And you can like really connect with them and say, okay, I see the passion behind you. So let's leverage that piece. Mm-hmm. Where if you were to spit that same thing into a microphone and a recording and say, tell me what I should do with this to AI.
Yeah.
It's going to say, okay, well, let me analyze and let me give you all these different bullet points and this stuff. But it's not going to say, okay, I hear the passion. You really need to be the voice of this. You really need the person out there. It may just say, oh, great. You know your stuff. You know your business. Here are some suggestions that I would say to do to better utilize X, Y, Z or whatever it may be.
I do think it'll be, you kind of talked earlier, like you're training your model. And I do think that kind of approach to the technology is interesting. And that's going to continue to evolve. And even thinking about like brand consistency, for companies. And if we can take what, now might be a static set of brand guidelines or brand standards from messaging, visual, everything, for a brand, for a company, and put it into more of that AI technology and train that model. So then as you produce things, what you're producing is more consistent, and it'll tell you, what's not, or help you refine it into being more consistent from a brand execution standpoint. Like, that's interesting. That'll be a fun, application of the technology for sure. So, yeah.
And also maybe decreasing the amount of time it takes to work on projects.
For sure.
So like we use some AI tools for the show and for other folks where it'll pull clips from the long form content.
It's an efficiency tool.
It's an efficiency tool, right? But it's not a replacement tool.
No.
Because even then you're going to add a little bit here, add a little bit there on the clips that it's pulling. And over time, it will get better and better because it's reading. And then if you connect it to your analytics and you say, hey, this one performed well. Why did it perform well? Well, maybe it was the lighting. Maybe it was the comments. Maybe it was the way that we arranged two people on top of each other versus side by side or whatever it was.
Right.
And then it starts learning that way. But never is it like, well, cool, I don't need Jay anymore.
Right. Yes.
Like AI is not going to sit there and do all of that stuff that a real live person can see.
And the jobs associated with that kind of work are going to change, right?
Correct.
So people who know how to manipulate and use the tools correctly. Like, those are going to be now new specialized jobs in various industries as well.
Well, I'm sure
which is interesting.
I'm sure it was the same thing when you look back at like the auto industry.
I feel
the
like
assembly line where they started adding machines.
Yes.
Now you have
somebody has to fix the machines.
That monitor the machines, checks them. Like, you're now checking the machines.
Right.
Same thing with AI. You have to, your AI tool is only as good as the input you give it.
Right.
And so if you have somebody has no idea how to input something into that AI model, you're not going to get the product out that you're after.
Right. It's the same thing with like design software. before, I'm sure when Photoshop was invented, people who were only ever drawn out by hand were like, oh no. But now, it's just people now know how to use that tool. Right. And to your point, if it's garbage in, it's going to be garbage out, And
I have found, now that we're in the new space, we can talk about it. We've been dabbling with some rebranding of the show.
Ooh.
And like changing the logo up.
Okay.
Because the logo was me and Canva. And then I had a friend of mine, a past guest of the show, come on and draw up the little person that was based off of a picture of me.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like, I want to change this up, mix this up. And so like I used AI to generate some different logo variations. Yeah. But it came to a point where I asked it to do something that was beyond its scope.
Yeah.
And then it messed it up.
It started to get wonky.
It messed it up. And then I couldn't have it go back and everything. So okay, where's the last best thing? And I was like, all right. And I was like, Jay, here's the best one I've got. What can
fix it from there.
And then fix it from there.
Yeah.
Because it's true. There still are limitations. And we may look at this in so many years from now and say, man, we thought the limitations were, now it can.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's only going to get better.
It's only going to get better.
Yeah.
We've used it to create a handful of logos and redesign and reimagine things. So it can do a little bit of design, but there's still that you're only sending it something and then you're getting its output.
Right.
But what you're not getting is the raw data, meaning that logo that has every individual item vectorized or individualized. You can move it and tweak it on like an Adobe or something like that, or in Canva.
From a technical
standpoint, you can move it and tweak it, and you don't get that. You just get, okay, here's what I've made based on your prompts, and then you get like a PNG or a JPEG.
Yeah.
But then you have to
recreate it probably. Yeah. Rebuild it.
And so for brands or companies like, oh, I can just use AI to eliminate, BBR, right? Like I can do that, no problem. It's like, well, you're going to get to a point in time where you can't.
Yeah. And I would say too, I mean, because I would definitely encourage any, especially like small business or startup, like use these tools, right? Use your resources available to you. Yes, you're probably going to have somebody come in and like finish the work. But for a larger company, it's not doing the things right out of the box. If you're, putting in a prompt for a new logo, it's not testing it with your audience. It's not, comparing it to any market research data or competitive landscape, or, it's not doing the smart part of the work. It's just making you something.
Correct. And it's not looking for more things that you think would be pertinent to the task.
It's just trying to respond to the prompt.
Correct. If you're like, find me a great place to put a new office space for XYZ business and XYZ industry, it'll say, here's a great spot to do that. And it's like, well, shouldn't we analyze like maybe some traffic patterns? Shouldn't we analyze maybe what's upcoming projects on the highways?
Right.
Shouldn't we also look at, well, there was like a same business there for 12 years.
Yeah.
And then they left. Why did they leave?
Right.
Did they just go out of business?
Right.
If they went out of business, was due to the location. And like they're not going to go through all those layers of analyzing the situation. They're going to say,
unless you know enough to pull all that and feed it in, right?
And because then it's all like you got to feed it all, and it's for some tasks, by the time you have given it all the proper input,
like I could have gotten my answer myself.
Product.
I know.
Like you could have just made the final product.
Yeah.
Like I have found, for me at least, the best case scenario is using it for the administrative document writing, initial drafting. Draft me XYZ document. And it's like, okay, here it is. Give it to me in a Word doc. Perfect. Now I can tweak it and edit it. I'm the opposite.
I'm like, take this half-baked, like, meandering of things I'm trying to say. And even if it's, like, organized and, like, now, like, clean it up and fix it. Or condense it, because sometimes I can get long-winded, So I'm the opposite. But a lot of people do, like, first draft and then, like, take it and make it their own.
And I'll do first draft, but then I'll also take it. I'll do the same way that you do.
Yeah.
I'll draft out this very lengthy email or something and say, format this with an executive summary at the beginning that I can then send and say, okay, here's my executive summary, but then here are all the details and all the links and the documents that I'm sending in this email. Because now it's like, used to be email for like communication. Now emails are like almost whole projects.
Right. Yeah.
And then one email I found like
in the filing system. And
like even an email, the response for me could end up taking 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, for sure.
For like the research that's got to go into it, the document preparation that's got to get in there. It's like this, like if you
it's
have
not quick communication.
It's not.
If you're,
And in your world, it's like, okay, hey, we need a post for this week. And it's like, okay, or we need to think around this strategy. And it's like, great, now I have a week-long worth of projects in one simple email. It's like even the way we communicate has changed. So it's an interesting time to be in business.
But I think you just embrace it and roll with it.
You have to.
You have to. That's all right. You don't have a choice.
That's right. We don't have a choice. So what's on the horizon for BBR? Have you started looking at your exit strategy?
Oh, heck no. I'm in sophomore year. I told you.
But even sophomores are looking to graduation.
True. It's probably a bad analogy in that case. I mean, I feel like right now it's really Lauren and I getting settled in our roles and evolving forward towards the future. So when people ask me, even like new employees or, whatever, kind of like, what's the vision of BBR? I always say, first and foremost, we want to protect our values and our culture and our founding philosophy. I mean, our purpose as a company is deliver goodwill and growth to the clients we serve, the people we employ, and the communities in which we live. And so kind of regardless of the who, what, where else that we do as a business, like that's foundational to the company and that will continue. That's important for us to maintain. Beyond that, I feel like for marketing agencies, there's a shift in the industry away from really, I don't know, a lot of different businesses, but let's stay the course of marketing agencies. Away from trying to be everything to everybody, right? So less about being generalists and like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. And really honing in on your niche. And so who are you really going to do incredible work for? And the who and the what of that specifically. And so we've narrowed some around that, who we really want to serve and who we know we can best serve and doing what type of work. So it's a furthering of that work, I would say, over the next year for sure. Not to get in a lot of the weeds of that, but, just trying to elevate the type of service that we're providing. My new thing is, we're not trying to provide services. We really want to provide solutions. Like, sure, we can make a thing. We can make the thing, but we really want to like understand your business problem and solve it with sound marketing.
Welcome to the brand new Falia mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy to use app for your phone. When you download the Falia mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falia in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falia, it's real estate reimagined.
Really understand who you are as a business, who your core audience is, like when you talk about branding, and then develop some meaningful messaging and visuals around that in order to connect and tell your story. So that's really the branding piece. And then for the marketing side of things, once you have a solid foundation for your brand, then the marketing is the connecting and telling of that story. It is like knowing who your core customers are, understanding what they care about in general, what they care about from you, what's the other noise out there that they're getting from your competitors, right? And then meeting them where they are in terms of channels and tactics with a meaningful message to move them and evoke emotion and action. So that's like the type of work, which really for us is primarily for B2C companies. There's a handful of verticals that we really have the most expertise in, that we're really focusing on: healthcare, financial services being two of those, some food and consumer products, because we're in Louisiana and everybody has food.
And consumer products.
Food clients, that's right. So yeah, it's just really honing in on our unique position, our niche as a business and as an agency, and growing from that. So that's kind of the work we're in the middle of right now, honestly, and focused on probably for the next 18 months. And then just, having a solid team around us. We already do. And so continuing to invest in them as, professionals and people, because that's really what's going to aid in the growth in the end.
Right.
So we're not really interested in like, a certain size or, we need 5 offices and 100 people. Actually, I like the smaller, the better, to be honest.
You're more nimble. Right?
I agree.
It's a lot easier.
I agree.
To turn a smaller ship than a cruise ship,
Absolutely. So really just, trying to be smart with the kind of work that we know we're best suited to do and who to do it for, have a solid team, and to serve our clients through partnerships, really just trying to bring solutions to them that solve their business problems. I hate doing marketing for the sake of marketing. I always like, what is it supposed to do? Don't come to me like, can you do our social media? Like, yeah, I can do your social media. But like, let's talk about the real point of social media.
Right.
And make sure we're all centered around that goal first. It's goal-oriented marketing.
Mm-hmm.
That's my new banner to fly.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're intentional about it.
Yes.
And you're not the generic, okay, you want to be on social media? Great. We're going to do 2 or 3 static posts a week. We're going to do a carousel on the 4th day. And the 5th day, we're going to maybe razzle some video.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, that's not a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a product line.
Yeah. And just a content plan.
Right.
And the flip side of that too is, clients understanding and having realistic expectations for social media. In certain industries, like healthcare, you're not going to sell something. You're not going to sell directly to somebody through your Facebook page, Not that we have that problem with healthcare, but sometimes we just get that oh, well, why didn't I sell something? Well, that's not what your particular social media, your people aren't showing up on social media to buy from you in your industry and where they are in their journey, So yeah, just helping to connect the dots for clients, and making sure that what we're doing is meaningful and meeting business goals, but realistically.
Right.
Yeah, that's always key.
And then explain to them the patience of social media.
Oh gosh, social, it's a whole thing. Yeah.
Don't expect to go viral.
That's right.
Overnight.
That's right. Yeah.
You're not going to grow from 1 to 1 million in a night.
No.
But they see it all the time.
I know.
So look here, so-and-so's doing it. Emily, why can't you do it?
Yeah, it's not magic. I wish I had that magic wand.
And it's weird. Some stuff will pop off.
Oh, you just never know. Yeah. I mean,
it's moody like a human. It's great.
Yes.
Some days they're interested in this piece. Some days they're interested in that piece.
And it is the recipe of that particular platform and the algorithm and what performs on that platform. And then who your real audience is on that platform.
Yep.
And in general.
Yep.
Because a lot of people, if somebody's like, we should be on TikTok. And it's like, one, can you even sustain on TikTok? Because that's a whole other thing. But is your real audience on TikTok? Are you really going after that demographic?
Right.
Are they ready for you there? Then don't bother, so just trying to be smart.
But everybody goes viral on TikTok.
They go viral on TikTok.
They go viral. Come on.
Yeah.
We'll do a silly dance.
Right. It's all it takes, right?
That's it. Silly dancing.
No.
Overnight sensation.
Unfortunately, no. So, yeah. So that's just, we're really just kind of in the middle of the grind, I feel like, of sophomore year. Certainly haven't thought about my exit strategy. I have many, many years of this. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I'm excited to see what you do.
Yeah.
So before we get you out of here, though.
Okay.
We have a set list of questions.
All right.
Hot seat questions.
Oh, gosh.
For every guest.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is, what is something you did as a kid you wish you could still do today?
Okay, well, this came up earlier, but play the piano. I wish I could still play the piano. I have
roll it in. Karaoke segment hitting right now.
I know. I have one song that I can kind of half play.
What's the song?
Fur Elise. I used to play classical piano.
Okay, love it.
So Fur Elise was one of my favorites. There's 3 movements to Fur Elise. I used to know all of it. Now I can like hack my way through the first movement at best. I know like every once in a while I'll get a wild hair at home and try to like break it out. And it's mostly from memory because I can barely read music anymore. It's really sad. It's just one of those things that like, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I could play the piano.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to get back to it.
I will bring one in here.
I have one at home.
Well, there she seems pick it back up.
I know.
Piano. That's why. So I used to play the saxophone.
Okay.
And I switched to piano because for me it was easier to play it because I could just sit down and start playing. Whereas the saxophone, I kept it in a case, so I had to assemble it, put it together. So I'm like 10 minutes in before I can actually start playing. I'm like, I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
So then I bought a stand for the saxophone, and it didn't help. It didn't change anything. But then I was thinking, like, okay, piano is more socially available.
Yeah.
So my 2 songs were "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" and "The Entertainer."
I played The Entertainer when I was little. That one's a good one. I probably should go back to The Entertainer. It's a good song.
It's a good classic.
Yeah.
That one, and then some Journey.
Some Journey. See, I always wanted to play fun stuff. That was really my end goal. But of course, you know, my piano teacher was like, no, scales and chords.
Oh, yeah, it's the original way.
The basics, I know. And so I muscled through that for years and years. And I'm not musically inclined. I mean, I had to work at it. I had to practice. But I was decent. I mean, I played through high school. The deal I made with my mother is I will continue to play piano through high school, but I'm not doing any more festivals and no more recitals. She's like,
the recitals.
Fine. So my senior year, she did ask, will you at least do one family concert senior year? And I'm like, fine. So that was the deal. But I did play all through high school.
Oh yeah.
From elementary all through high school. You think I would be able to play now, but it's not good.
The Mozart, the Bach, the Beethoven.
Yes, all of that.
All of that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it, and there were some fun songs that I could play.
Yeah.
But like for like learning the journey and all that stuff,
yeah.
I did not learn it by reading sheet music. I learned it
by ear,
the cheater way, like watching somebody play it on the piano.
Oh, okay.
And so then I was like, oh, yeah, now I can play. That's
I always
easy.
envy people who could play by ear. I was not, like I said, not one of those people. I learned how to read music, and I couldn't sight read super well, but I mean, I could hack it. But yeah, I never really got to the fun stuff. There were a couple that I finally like brought to my piano teacher, and I'm like, can I focus on this? You know?
Yeah. So my saxophone teacher instilled in me learning songs by ear.
Yeah.
So.
See, I never learned that. Okay, well, that's mine. Play the piano.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, what are 3 lessons you've learned along your path?
Oh, okay. Lesson 1, I would say ask a lot of questions, really in any situation. Sometimes I think I might know, so I have to like stop and ask a lot of questions. Like, don't make assumptions, because you're probably going to learn something for sure. And it's probably not what you thought. You probably didn't have the right answer to begin with. So that's probably lesson 1. Ask a lot of questions. Lesson 2, maybe step away from a thing. Probably as another like problem solving lesson. Sometimes I can get really focused on solving the thing, and you just like want to dig in and like, but it's good to step away from it and kind of let it live in the back of your brain and think about other things, and, you know, let other life experiences kind of apply and look at it from different lenses, and you'll make your way back kind of to the solution. So that's kind of another thing, I guess, is a lesson learned. I guess number 3 is never say never, because I said I would never own an agency.
Here you are.
And here I am. I have eaten those words. That's not the only time that's ever happened to me. Where I've said like, oh, never, I will never do that. There's probably a handful of other things, and never say never, because you just don't know where life is ultimately going to take you. And I think at that time, when I said that, I certainly wasn't ready for that. That seemed just so crazy and far reaching and unattainable. But over time it was like, yeah. And when the opportunity did present itself, like with BBR, it did make sense. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
now I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, this does make sense. And I was ready for it then. I was ready to say yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
So what is something you love about Baton Rouge?
I am not a foodie. So let me just put that out there. I'm one of those, I eat to live, not live to eat. Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
But I love to go out to eat. And so that, like, as an activity,
Mm-hmm. Oh, it comes about rightfully. Your husband's the same way.
Now he loves to eat. Like, he loves the foodie. He loves, he really loves all of it.
And he still holds the record for the longest standing time I've stayed in a restaurant.
Yes, that sounds right.
Was with him.
Yes.
That's the longest. I was thinking back to the day. I was like, is that beat my other records of sitting in a restaurant for that amount of time? And I was like, it does.
Yeah, that checks out for sure with him. So as you can imagine, we like to go out to eat. We like, to hang out and go places. And so probably like for Baton Rouge, there's a handful of places that I love to go and just have a great experience for the atmosphere, but also the food. I feel like the, kind of the overpass, like down Perkins area, like the parking's awful in that whole area, but it's got a nice little, like, I don't know, pocket of restaurants like DeGiulio's, and they've got Building 5, which I love. There's that new Mexican place that's great over there. I don't know, like bars is great. I mean, for a completely different vibe.
You got the Colonel's Club.
Colonel's Club is awesome. Just went there recently. So I don't know. And then like Mid-City's got some great places too, like Love Roca and Elsie's. And I don't know. I love that there's a lot of different places to go and have those fun experiences and have great food. Right. So yeah.
No, absolutely.
Great vibe, great food.
So for the final question, what can I do to help you?
What can you do to help me? You know what you can tell me?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm nervous.
Okay.
I'm nervous.
I asked this question earlier, and maybe you can tell me your secret to this. How in the world do you have this thriving side hustle? Work and you work a full-time job. You obviously have a family. You talked about your son. How in the world do you fit all that in? So tell me your secret. That's what you can do for me.
I have a very understanding wife.
I was going to say, you either don't sleep.
Yeah, too.
Okay.
Yeah, that too. You sacrifice a few things. Mm-hmm. Sleep being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But
a very understanding
spouse. Understanding and supportive spouse. I have a great partner in both of my businesses that I own.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I get the right people in place. Mm-hmm. And I do have to kind of shine on Jay here. It wouldn't be where it's at without him.
That's awesome. Great people on your team is
great
crucial.
People on the team. And when he and I knocked this idea around 16 months ago-ish.
Yeah.
16, yeah, almost 18 months ago, where we were like, let's see if we can make this work. It is kind of the main reason why it has gotten to where it has gotten, is because of that team member. And same thing with the firm. Like, it's because of the team that we've built over the years and the folks that we do business with.
Yeah.
It is 2 full-time jobs. And then you've got the family.
Yeah.
Right.
Your third full-time job.
Right. My third full-time job.
Right.
Like we've got 2 kids.
Yeah.
And so they're 3 and 18 months. And so it's like,
yeah.
We're in the
That's a good time.
We're in the trenches all the time.
Yes.
So really I'm just always in the trenches.
Yes.
And never, I mean, we have our fun times and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really.
You must drink a lot of coffee or caffeine. I don't know.
I do, yeah. A lot of coffee.
Energy drinks? Are you an energy drink drinker?
I'm not an energy drink person.
Me neither.
I used to
Okay.
be. I used to drink like Monsters and all that stuff.
Oof,
but no,
yeah.
now just straight community coffee.
There you go.
Is my go-to. So yeah, just caffeine and
Good people.
Good people.
Yeah.
Caffeine and good people.
I love that.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So, well, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being the first guest in the new space.
I'm so honored. This was fun. It wasn't nearly as nerve-wracking as I was fearing.
Oh no, there's
This is great.
nothing nerve-wracking about this about the show. It's just we're just chit-chat.
Yes.
Come on, we got
And
some,
you gave me good wine.
We got some Frank family wine.
I know. We had good wine.
We got some good stuff. So,
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Thank you for coming. And
Yeah.
thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. Whatever platform you're consuming us on, I really appreciate it. And the guests do as well. Obviously, we're in a new space. We have a lot of great ideas for where we are. And it's going to kind of just keep unfolding to you each week. So make sure you stick around and enjoy it. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week.